who do you think is happier in relationships? People that are consensually non-monogamous or monogamous relationships?
I mean, based off of the Lily Allen album where her relationship blew up after being open,
Yeah.
I would say it would have to be the monogamous couples.
So scientists, what scientist gets into being a scientist to be like, let's figure out who's happier, open relationships or closed relationships? But anyway, they were looking at data from over 36 surveys that were done that talked to over 25,000 people.
Okay.
So this is not a necessarily small sample size.
Right.
And the scientists found that couples who were in an open relationship were equally happy to those couples that were not in an open relationship. Does that almost make you feel like maybe an open relationship wouldn't be that bad?
So that's not what makes me feel like an open relationship wouldn't be that bad. Like,
Yeah.
I've never really been opposed to the idea of an open relationship before this study. But what I think could be happening with this survey is I think to make an open relationship work is you have to be very open with communication as well with your partner. And I think that that's something that if you're in a monogamous relationship, maybe you get a little lackadaisy on. You don't communicate as much as you need to until you reach this point where you realize, oh my gosh, we're like drifting apart. We're having these issues. And then there has to be an intervention in that relationship. Whereas if you want to make non-monogamy work, it's going to end very quickly if you don't communicate.
So that is interesting because the lead researcher on this had a belief that monogamy was the way to go, not open relationships. And then he was surprised to find out that the stuff that matters more in relationships than monogamy is communication, consent, and compatibility. So you just because you're not in an open relationship does not mean that Bob and Katie are less happy than you because they are in an open relationship.
Right.
So I want to ask the question, if your husband or boyfriend came home today and said, hey, I was listening to Adam and Allison this morning, and they said that couples in open relationships were just as happy as couples not in open relationships. We should give it a try. How are you reacting to that? Like you're not in an open relationship and somebody proposes it, because it reminded me of a scene from, remember that show Friday Night Lights?
Oh, yeah.
There was a scene where the backup quarterback or whatever, who's like a nerdy kid and then becomes the star quarterback of the team, gets a girlfriend and goes to the running back who was cool and had girls all over him. And it's like, I kind of want to break up, but I don't want to do the breaking up. How do you do it? And he's like, I just tell them I want an open relationship and let the chips fall where they may.
Oh, no.
So what would you do if you were in a monogamous relationship and your partner came home and said, hey, let's open things up?
I think it all depends on how it gets brought up. And I think it's based on like this survey. If they're bringing it up from a perspective of like, let's talk about this, I'm going to be a lot more open-minded about it because they're willing to have that communication that would be necessary to sustain an open relationship. But if they just come to me and go, babe, I want to try an open relationship, then I know they already have somebody in mind. Jealousy is already going to be a factor. Communication is not going to happen the way that it needs to. And I might be out at that point.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think I would have a hard time with it just because I would think that the female in an open relationship is probably going to get a little more play than the dude. So if my hypothetical non-existent girlfriend said, hey, Adam, let's open things up, I'm like, well, you're going to have a good time and I'm going to be stuck at home twiddling my thumbs.
Even if she like slow faded the conversation, gradually just drop little things to where it's like, what are your thoughts on an open relationship?
She would have to present me with somebody who was willing to be involved. Like I know this girl Jessica from work, and she just thinks you're the best. Then maybe I'd be okay. All right, that makes sense. What would you do though if your partner came home and based on this information that non-monogamous couples are no happier or less happy than monogamous non-monogamous couples, how would you handle that? Would you give it a shot? Would you be out like Allison said she would be? Our girl Brentlin texted us and said, I'm too protective. I could not do that. So then I texted Brentlin back and said, well, what if your fiance came home today and said, Adam and Allison said, we'd be just as happy. And she said, honestly, I would laugh and say no because he knows I'm too protective and get jealous. He mine.
Ooh, Hans texted in and said, I'm not sharing my wife's goods with anybody. That said, I let her date with a couple of guys and know and trust that she works with. They are close friends of mine as well.
Wait. So they go out on, so the guy just buys dinner and that's it?
I don't know. I got to know more. Tell us more, Hans.
We have some inside information from Fake Name Kelly. Welcome to the show, Fake Name Kelly. And I understand you have been in an open relationship before.
Absolutely. Hi.
More than one or just the one open relationship?
It's been more than one, and they were long-term relationships.
And whose idea was it to open things up, or did you both go in the beginning thinking, okay, we're going to be seeing other people this whole time, but we're committed to each other?
It was definitely the guys.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Okay. Do you feel like those relationships, because you said they were long-term, like they lasted a while, that they were just as happy as the relationships that you've had that have been monogamous?
Absolutely. And the ones that, that I'm not involved now, obviously they didn't last.
Yeah.
But they were so fruitful, and the reason that we went our separate ways had nothing to do with the relationship being open. If anything, I feel like pretty much the ones that were open, we were able to leave on really good terms, actually, compared to the ones that were completely monogamous.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's very fascinating, Fake Name Kelly. I got to ask, who got more action in these open relationships? You or the dude?
Well, I'll say this is the dudes were looking more, and then I have had it where I brought something to the table and I said, hey, I'm thinking about going on this date, and that's when they would get jealous.
Oh,
and they would
wow.
I don't know if I can share you. Never mind. I don't know. But it's totally respectful because, like Allison said, it's all about communication. And just because, like, say you try to be open or you say you want to be open, it's okay to say and be vulnerable and say, I'm just, you know what? I wasn't prepared to feel this way. I'm prepared to think about it, but the feeling of it is like jealousy is real, and you have to acknowledge that when someone is vulnerable enough to share that with you.
Fake Name Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show and being part of it this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. Some firsthand knowledge of somebody who has experience with this exact thing we're talking about.
Who's ready for an open relationship?
Adam and Allison in the morning.